The night was almost over. The stars were slowly retreating from the sky, and the first breath of dawn was beginning to touch the roofs of Agunle. With the flower of reflections clutched tightly against her chest, Olanike emerged from the forbidden forest, exhausted, dirty, and forever changed. She walked slowly toward the village, still unable to believe what had happened. Every few steps, she glanced at her reflection in puddles left behind by the night's rain, and every time she did, she stopped in disbelief. The face staring back at her was not the face she had known all her life. The girl whom people mocked was gone. The girl more children laughed at was gone. The girl who cried herself to sleep was gone. In her place stood a maiden so beautiful that even she struggled to recognize herself. Then, suddenly, a terrible realization struck her heart. If she had become beautiful, then the prophecy had come true. And if the prophecy had come true, there could only be one explanation. Grandmother was gone. Olanike stopped walking. The flower of reflections nearly slipped from her fingers. "No," she whispered. "No." Tears streamed down her face. Not because she had become beautiful, not because the curse had ended, but because the only person who had ever truly loved her was no longer alive. She fell to her knees beneath the fading moonlight, crying, alone, broken. For years, she had listened to Olanmma's strange words. For years, she had wondered what secret her grandmother was hiding, and now the old woman was gone. Gone before she could explain, gone before she could answer 1,000 questions, gone before she could tell her why. Why was she cursed? Why did beauty return only now? What had happened before she was born? And why had her grandmother carried such sadness in her eyes? The more Olanike thought about it, the more mysterious everything became. She had dreamed all her life of being beautiful, yet now that beauty had come, it felt heavier than sorrow itself. But she could not stop. Adewale's life still hung between two worlds. The village remained asleep as Olanike quietly entered through the eastern path. The same villagers who once mocked her now slept peacefully behind their doors, unaware that destiny had walked among them before sunrise. Soon, she arrived at Adewale's compound. The entire household was asleep. The guards who had stood watch throughout the night had finally surrendered to exhaustion. Relatives who had spent hours praying for Adewale's recovery slept where they sat. Even the servants had collapsed from weariness. No one saw Olanike enter. No one saw her kneel. And no one saw her place the flower of reflections beside Adewale's doorway. For a moment, she simply stood there. The man she had loved for years was only a few steps away. Yet, he had never truly seen her, never known her, never understood the battle she fought in silence. Slowly, she placed the flower beside his door. Olanike whispered softly, "Leave, Adiale. That is all I ask." For a brief moment, she considered staying. Perhaps she could wait. Perhaps she could see him wake up. But then she remembered her grandmother and the empty hut waiting for her. So she turned around and disappeared quietly into the fading darkness. Moments later, the flower of reflections began to glow. Its silver petals slowly opened, and a single drop of golden light drifted beneath Adewale's door. Inside the room, Adewale's fingers twitched. For the first time since falling into the coma, the lamps flickered. The morning breeze stirred, and somewhere between life and death, Adewale's spirit began its journey home. But Olanike never saw it. she was already hurrying back toward her village, unaware that another tragedy awaited her. As the first rays of sunlight spread across Agomile, Olanike hurried toward her family's compound. Her mind was troubled. Her heart was heavy. And the questions surrounding her grandmother's death refused to leave her thoughts. Perhaps she was still alive. Perhaps the prophecy meant something else. Perhaps there was still time to hear the truth. Clutching her wrapper tightly around herself, Olanike quickened her pace. But then, something caught her attention. A dark cloud of smoke rising into the morning sky. At first, she ignored it. Many villagers burned weeds before planting season. But the closer she came, the more familiar the direction became. Suddenly, her heart skipped. The smoke was coming from her family's farmlands. Shh. No. She broke into a run. Faster and faster, until she reached the hill overlooking the vast family farms. Then she froze. Fire everywhere. The rich farmlands that had fed her family for generations were burning. Flames danced wildly across the fields. The harvest was being consumed before the eyes of helpless villagers. Women cried. Men shouted. Children ran carrying buckets of water. But nothing worked. The fire only grew stronger. The yam barns are gone. The cassava fields too. Everything is burning. Olanike staggered backward, unable to speak. Then her gaze drifted toward the cattle fields, and what she saw there nearly stopped her heart. The family's prized cattle lay scattered across the earth, motionless, silent, gone. Dozens of them. The same cattle her cousins often bragged about. The same cattle that had made their family the envy of 7 villages. All lost in a single night. A cold chill traveled down Olanike's spine. And then, the voice of the goddess echoed inside her mind. Your family has lost all its wealth this day for your beauty. Olanike's knees weakened. The goddess had spoken the truth. The curse had ended, and the price was being collected. For the first time, Olanike understood. Every piece of gold, every fertile field, every healthy animal, every luxury her family enjoyed had been purchased with her suffering. And now, the debt had come due.
Whoa. They see the shadow, not the sun inside. But this family's light has a hidden price. For the wealth they see and the gold they hold, a sacrifice was made, a story never told. This heavy crown of sorrow I must bear, because I am the chosen one.
Suddenly, fear gripped her heart. What would happen if they saw her now? What if they connected her beauty to their loss? What if they blamed her for everything? What if they hated her even more? Panic overwhelmed her. Without another thought, she turned and ran. She ran past the burning farms, past the frightened villagers, past the market square, past the village well. She ran until her legs could carry her no more. And when she finally stopped, she found herself standing before the
oldest cemetery in all of Agunle. The Cemetery of Ancestors, a place where forgotten kings slept beneath the earth, a place where ancient warriors rested, a place most villagers avoided after sunset. The iron gates creaked softly in the morning breeze. Olanike looked behind her. No one had followed. No one knew where she was. And for the first time since her transformation, she felt safe. Safe from questions, safe from blame, safe from the eyes of the world. Slowly, she stepped through the gates. Little did Olanike know that before the sun would set that very day, the entire village would be searching for her. And before another week passed, the 7 villages would begin whispering about a mysterious maiden seen among the graves. A maiden so beautiful that some believed she was a spirit. Others believed she was a goddess. And a few claimed she was an woman. But none of them knew the truth. The beautiful stranger hidden among the tombstones was the same Olanike they had mocked all her life.
They see the shadow, not the sun inside. But this family's light has a hidden price. For the wealth they see and the gold they hold, a sacrifice was made, a story never told. This heavy crown of sorrow I must bear, because I am the chosen one.